Zelensky on December 9 said he is ready to hold elections once the West provides security guarantees, making it clear that Kyiv is prepared to move forward with a national vote as soon as international partners ensure conditions that protect voters, institutions, and the overall electoral process. If US and Europe ensure security, Ukraine will hold elections in 60 to 90 days, Zelensky said, underscoring that Ukraine could organize and conduct a full nationwide election within a tight time frame if Western nations offer the necessary protective measures and operational support. Guarantees could include weapons, air defense, and sanctions if needed, as per reports, meaning that Kyiv expects a strong mix of military assistance, defensive systems, and punitive tools against Russia to shield the election from attacks and interference. Zelensky's comments came in response to US President Trump's remarks during a Politico interview on December 9. Trump publicly questioned Ukraine's prolonged pause on elections and pushed for renewed democratic choice despite the ongoing war. They're using war not to hold an election, but Ukrainians should have a choice, Trump said, suggesting that even during conflict, the Ukrainian people deserve an opportunity to vote and decide their leadership rather than postponing elections indefinitely. Journalist Dosha Burns asked Trump, and I quote, "Is it time for Ukraine to hold an election, do you think?" In response, Trump said, and I quote, "Yeah, I think so. It's been a long time. It hasn't been doing particularly well. I think it's time. I think it's an important time to hold an election. They're using war not to hold an election, but I would think the Ukrainian people should have that choice. And maybe Zelensky would win. I don't know who would win. But they haven't had an election in a long time. You know, they talk about a democracy, but it gets to a point where it's not a democracy anymore." This came as Zelensky rejected parts of Trump's plan to end the war in Ukraine, widening the ongoing rift between Kyiv's expectations and Washington's pressure for a rapid negotiated settlement and adding new friction to already delicate wartime diplomacy. Ukraine is still revising the ceasefire proposal and will send it to the US by December 10, Zelensky said, stressing that his government is working through each clause carefully and intends to present a version that protects Ukraine's interests while responding to Washington's demands. Trump said that Ukraine will have to get on the ball and start accepting things, indicating that US expects Kyiv to show more flexibility and urgency in the negotiations if it wants continued political and military backing. Trump also suggested that it was time for Zelensky to compromise in the ceasefire talks, signaling that Washington believes Ukraine must make difficult concessions and adjust its strategy to move the stalled peace process forward. Putin has also called Zelensky an illegitimate leader and pushed for Ukrainian elections, using the delayed vote as a political weapon while amplifying Kremlin narratives that challenge Kyiv's democratic credibility during wartime. Zelensky has been in power since 2019 and his 5-year term officially ended last year, creating a constitutional gray zone that Russia and some domestic critics have exploited to question the legitimacy of Ukraine's leadership under martial law. Martial law was imposed in Ukraine in February 2022 when the war broke out, prohibiting election. This wartime framework has allowed the government to postpone national voting while prioritizing defense, security, and frontline operations. Some of Zelensky's political opponents also say that conditions aren't favorable for an election, arguing that active conflict, displacement, destroyed infrastructure, and security risks make it impossible to ensure equal participation or credible results. Zelensky said he would ask Parliament to change the law if Ukraine gets security guarantees, emphasizing that Kyiv could move toward a vote only if Western partners provide weapons, air defense, and protective measures to safeguard the process. This comes as Zelensky's government faces backlash over $100 million energy sector corruption scheme, intensifying public scrutiny and raising questions about internal accountability at a time when Ukraine is seeking stronger Western support. Several members of Zelensky's inner circle have been implicated in the scandal, fueling criticism from opposition leaders and international observers who warn that corruption threatens public trust and Ukraine's wartime resilience. Zelensky's close aide and business partner Timur Mindich reportedly led the corruption scheme, placing additional pressure on the Ukrainian president as reports link key allies to financial misconduct involving vital national infrastructure and foreign aid.
So, first of all, I want to say that I haven't discussed this issue of elections. Second, the question of the elections in Ukraine, I think, depends on our people, and this is a question of the people of Ukraine, and not the people of other countries, with all due respect to our partners. I will say frankly that I am ready for the elections. If there is a question that we are clinging to power, or I am personally, and therefore the war does not come to an end, this is an absolutely inadequate story. To hold the elections, there are two questions. First of all, security. How to do it. How to do it under the strikes, under the missiles, and in relation to our troops. The question is how to vote. You know it. I don't want to repeat. And the second question is a legislative basis for the legitimacy of the elections. And since this question is raised by the President of the United States of America, our partners, I will answer very briefly. I am ready for the elections. Moreover, I ask now, and I declare it openly, the United States of America to help me, including European colleagues, ensure security for the elections. And then in the next 60 to 90 days, Ukraine will be ready to hold the elections. And I personally have the will and readiness for this. Next, since this is the case, I ask the deputies of our party, in principle, our MPs, to prepare legislative proposals on the possibility of changing the legislative basis and the law on elections during the martial law. I will be in Ukraine tomorrow. I expect proposals from my partners. I expect proposals from our deputies, and I am ready to go to the elections.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.